Do you want to see my cookie? Alligator juniper cookie to be exact. And I built a barhead table out of it. Do you want one too? Follow me and lessons anfangen. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Remember the story about my road trip to Arizona I talked about a few weeks ago? Well, this story also entailed another piece of lumber that I might have not mentioned back then. So, meet my alligator juniper cookie. All the way from Arizona. Looking at it, I'm sure you know why I had to have it. It's just a beautiful piece of lumber. I started a project by flattening the slab with my router sled to make sure it's straight and has an even thickness. Are you wondering why I'm not using my CNC machine? Well, this one is so big it won't even fit underneath the router. So I had to do it by hand. Also, it's so wide I don't have a table big enough, so I had to use the floor. That's the great thing about this flattening jig. It's adjustable to pretty much any height and it can be easily moved. Once I finished one side, I flipped it over and did the other side. Don't worry about any marks that the router bit leaves. This can be easily sanded off later. The piece has a large crack in the middle and honestly it barely holds together. I was afraid that it would crack while flattening it, but luckily it didn't. To fill in the cracks and make the piece stable and give it an interesting detail, I decided to fill in the cracks with ultra clear epoxy and one of the great mica powder pigments. I chose this green color because once the table gets its finish, it will be much darker and the light green will look fantastic. This resin has a 1:1 ratio and needs to be mixed thoroughly, so let's have some fun with it. And there shall be enough mixing. The pouring of the resin is one of my favorite things to do. It's so relaxing, isn't it? You could totally use the ultra clear deep pour epoxy here and pour it in one layer, but it does need a little bit longer to dry than the tabletop. The tabletop you will have to pour multiple layers, but it's also the hardest epoxy and we won't be adding a clear coat on top, so this will be it. And that's why I chose the tabletop epoxy for this project. I pour the epoxy from high up very slowly, so the resin will fill in the holes itself. If you pour too fast, the epoxy will not fill in the smaller holes completely and air bubbles might get trapped underneath. So this is a simple way to avoid this. There are a lot of smaller holes and cracks, but also some of the bigger holes that go all the way through. So I had to pour multiple layers of the epoxy. Also make sure when you pour multiple layers that the epoxy has cooled down enough before you pour the next layer, because overheating will cause the epoxy not to cure properly, and that can ruin your project very quickly. It's a few days later now and I put multiple layers of the resin on the top and bottom of the cookie. It's all filled in and it's time to give it one last flattening to take off any extra resin and leave a pretty surface. In case you were wondering what those holes are on the bottom from, I've actually used this cookie once for a Christmas market display and I had to quickly attach some legs. The table ended up being super wobbly since it wasn't flattened yet and you could not put any weight on it since it almost cracked in half. But that's what the holes are from. It held the inserts from the screws. And I will later use those same holes again for the inserts that will hold the screws. That will attach the table legs. Honestly, I went a bit too deep with the router here. I wanted to just take off the surface and ended up taking another 2 or 3 millimeters on top of that. But once I noticed, I had to commit. I didn't damage the table or anything, I just made it a bit thinner. Looks still great though. What do you think? Once the cookie was flattened, I brought it back to my workbench to re-drill the holes for the inserts. I had to deepen them since I had taken off a bit of the height for the table. Also there was some resin that leaked into some of the holes. Geez, that thing is heavy. You can see all those lines that the router bit left. And arguable, the router bit is on its last leg and really needs to be replaced. But as previously mentioned, those lines will sand out just fine, which we will tackle next with some good tunes. Let's have fun with it. Oh yes, those inserts. What would I do without them? It makes building tables so much easier by making it simple to attach legs that hold in place strongly but can also be removed if needed. Those inserts are ordered from Amazon, and you can find the link in the description below the video, because every woodworker should have a few of those handy at all times. Those bar table legs are ordered from Amazon as well. Actually, I say bar table, it's somewhere between a bar table and countertop height table, because apparently countertop height is somewhere between 34 and 36 inches height, and the bar height is between 40 and 42 inches, with this table being around 38 inches. Either way, it's bar height to me, just the perfect size to set on a drink, and that's all that matters, right? And one more time using those muscles out of steel. Oh, Nutella. I think I have Nutella running in my veins as much as I eat of it. Even with the legs and the resin added, the table does feel a little lighter than what I started with. And I'm not complaining about it. Lately I've been building a lot of furniture that I can't even move myself because it's so heavy. So it's kinda nice that I can actually move this one for once. What do you think about the height? I think it's just perfect for me. It's perfect to place a drink on, and if I had one too many, I can rest my head on it. What else can you ask for? One thing I can wait to do is to apply the finish. I can already tell that green will pop perfectly. Also, I can wait to see the full grain of the alligator juniper wood. For the finish, there's many ways you can go. This time I picked the linseed oil finish, which then I added a layer of Moose Magoose wood butter. I wanted something that I can easily apply without ending up with streaks, since I left the edges in its original live edge form, and that makes it a little bit harder to apply a nice finish. Wow, what just happened? Do you see the color pop? Hoo, amazing! I love how dark the wood turned out, and I told you this green mica powder will make all the difference. And this is only the bottom side. The top did have a little bit more of the green, so I can wait to finish that. I purposely left some of the darker spots on the sides to give the piece a little bit more dimension on top of it. I did, however, make sure to take anything off that could eventually chip off in the future. I left the bottom side dry a bit before I flipped over the table and did the top. And that's it, we are fertig! Wow, what a beautiful table! What do you think? Do you like the build? I think it was a simple enough project with a great outcome. Best part about it, I have another piece of furniture that I have no room for in the house anymore. But oh well, I will find a spot. Please like, comment and subscribe. If you haven't done so, please click the bell button to get notified of new videos. Also, if you can, please join my Patreon. That helps me create more YouTube videos. Thank you so much and see you next week. Tschüss und auf Wiedersehen. A quick update on what I'm up to lately. So I was hanging out in the backyard and some quail came through, and I noticed short after that it had dropped me a blue egg. I couldn't believe it. It fits perfectly because I just started for the very first time ever trying to hatch some chicken eggs. This is really just an experiment, but I would be ecstatic if I actually got some chickens and now a quail on top of it. Well, let's find out in 3 weeks.